It is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now?
Even though the punchline was spot on and the room exploded in laughter, Greg Gutfeld wasn't satisfied with merely making a joke. Seizing the opportunity, he called attention to what he perceived to be obvious hypocrisy. Sunny Hostin, who has long advocated for making people accountable for their ancestry, frequently bases her arguments on systematic oppression and the significance of historical accountability. However, when confronted with information about her own family's problematic background, she appeared to shrug it off as a fact of life. Gutfeld was not unaware of that. Moments like this, he noted, highlight the perils of identity politics, particularly when the narrative someone promotes is inconsistent with their own reality. He emphasized the importance for self-awareness and nuance while addressing complex themes like race and history, arguing that Sunny's moral high ground had recently taken a plunge.
You know, new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
You know?
One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this.
Gutfeld explained that activists like as Sunny frequently ignore inconvenient details, such as their own contradictions, by distilling complex issues to identity-based talking points. Not only did Sunny's forebears participate in a system that she vehemently dislikes, but she also failed to consider it, he said, which was the true irony. Rather than recognizing the obvious conflict in her own position, she minimized its importance. His remarks struck a deep chord with many people and were a perfect illustration of what occurs when moral superiority and unsettling realities collide. For Gutfeld, Sunny wasn't the only one involved. The greater lesson was that performative anger frequently takes precedence over personal accountability. Social media was ablaze with memes and witty humor, including one post that went popular that said reparations, as the internet quickly responded. Quickly, let me write that check to myself. Strong opinions were expressed by individuals on TikTok and Twitter. Some defended Sunny by arguing that she shouldn't be held accountable for the misdeeds of her ancestors, while others called attention to her obvious double standard.
You know, in her defense, everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. Worried for Sunny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now. Why I'm so stupid and fat.
This sparked an intense argument. Should Sunny and other public personalities be held to the same moral standards that they expect from others? Critics contended that her reaction lacked the introspection and development that one would expect from a platform of this magnitude. In the meantime, Sunny's contemptuous response to her family's history changed the subject from possible introspection to charges of hypocrisy. The discussion shifted to her failure to face her own past rather than the complexity of ancestry and culpability, reducing it to another argument about who is actually morally responsible. Then there was The View's embarrassing consequences. There was an uncomfortable stillness at the table after the cheerful atmosphere abruptly ended when it was revealed that her ancestors had owned slaves. Even the famously quick-witted Whoopi Goldberg seems uncertain about how to respond to such a wry disclosure. But there was a very different mood on Gutfeld's show. His co-hosts weren't holding back, launching fun barbs and scathing punches. One even joked that Sunny should begin to shame herself for her family's history. The moral flaws in Sunny's foundation were further revealed by their scathing laughter. Even Rosie O'Donnell voiced her opinion, providing a more nuanced analysis of the circumstances.
Guess there's nothing worse than to find out you're a white woman.
She's so disappointed.
It's really disappointing.
Her mother was white.
Oh my
The
god.
shame.
Oh my god.
The horror. History, and finds out that this is fantastic. She is descended from slaveholders. She's descended from slaveholders, and she's been apparently getting a lot of mail about her call for reparations because it turns out she's going to be paying them and not actually receiving.
She warned against simplifying complicated topics like race and history, and underlined that people should be evaluated by their deeds rather than their heritage. Her viewpoint highlighted how these kinds of discoveries can upend dogmatic narratives and force self-examination, which is both difficult and essential. The responses to Sunny's answer revealed a clear rift. While some saw it as another instance of identity politics gone wrong, others saw it as a chance for personal responsibility. No matter where anyone stood, there was no denying the tension in her response. What might have been a turning point in Sunny's life instead turned into a controversy regarding her alleged hypocrisy and resistance to facing her own history. This tale serves as a reminder that no one's past is simple. It brings up an important question. Shouldn't you hold yourself to the same standards as others if you expect others to? Sunny's legacy will be shaped by how she responds to this situation, whether she chooses to confront the problem head-on or disregard it completely.
Reach out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
Sunny's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and it's nothing.
Just
there.
go for it. Yeah.
In the meantime, Sunny's private life became even more contentious. Her spouse, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, who was embroiled in a significant court battle, was the focus of attention this time. The accusations include attorney kickbacks, insurance fraud, and an astounding RICO action with 180 defendants. This is not your typical legal dispute. The medical community could be rocked to its foundation by this high-stakes incident, a strategy allegedly planned by Dr. Hostin and others to take advantage of the healthcare system for financial gain, accept bribes to do unneeded surgeries, and file false insurance claims for procedures that may not have even occurred, is at the center of the complaint. Imagine anesthesia being administered to patients for unnecessary procedures, with insurance companies unwittingly bearing the expense. One of the most startling medical scandals in recent memory could result from these claims if they are accurate.
That has a policy. I mean, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan should be removed from Spotify. He's got 11 million listeners. He's got $100 million, contract as of 2020. But I do think as the podcast platform, you have to have some sort of guidelines. How about a disclaimer on his podcast that says, this is misinformation? How about removing some of the podcasts that disseminate this misinformation?
They have.
And that's listening.
In response, Daniel Thwaites, Dr. Hostin's attorney, has criticized the case as unfounded and charged the insurance company with using it as a smokescreen to hide their own financial issues. The conflict has only intensified, but what truly sets this story off is how it directly affects Sunny, who may have been fully aware of her husband's dubious activities. Enter podcast tycoon Joe Rogan, who didn't waste any time in exposing The View's hypocrisy. Sunny frequently chastised others for their medical advice, he said. The idea that she might have been aware of her husband's suspected illicit actions was never accepted by her. Sunny is currently caught in the crossfire of her own public persona and her husband's legal entanglements, and Rogan's remarks simply serve to stoke the flames and damage Sunny's credibility. The reality about prominent individuals and their well-constructed images is now at the center of this dispute, not simply the lawsuit. The drama continues to develop, and Sunny's response, or lack thereof, will ultimately affect how the public perceives her. This time, Carrie Underwood's choice to perform at the presidential inauguration was the source of the issue rather than the viewpoint or a political discussion. Cancel culture suddenly targeted the country music diva, who was generally admired for her unadulterated talent and absence of controversy. What should have been a time of pride and a celebration of her nation instead became a furor of criticism. Because she agreed to perform, critics quickly accused her of being a supporter of a convicted felon. The catch is that it was not about her performance. Rather, it was about what the performance represented to those who were unable to overcome their political prejudices and yet appreciate her as an artist.
Superstar Carrie Underwood has spent most of her career avoiding political talk, but she's set to perform at the upcoming inauguration. She said in a statement that she's doing it because the country must come together in the spirit of unity and look to the future. And lots of her fans aren't thrilled about it, but lots of her fans are. So let's put this in perspective here. What do y'all think?
I personally hope we're moving beyond the era of politics where we want to cancel people's livelihoods because we don't like their politics. And whether it was the Dixie Chicks for criticizing George Bush, didn't agree with it then, and Carrie Underwood, if you have a problem, you register your complaint by not downloading her songs and not going to her shows. Right. But I also think from a business standpoint, it's not a bad decision for Carrie Underwood. 75 million people voted for Trump. Artists tend to skew left-leaning, so she's overnight going to become an icon of MAGA and the American right. She's probably going to make a lot of money off of it. So I get why she did it.
In spite of the criticism, Carrie remained firm. Instead, she stood her ground, gaining the respect of a fresh group of followers who appreciated her bravery in sticking to her conviction. For fear of criticism or losing endorsement deals, some of her fellow country music artists, on the other hand, remained mute. No, Carrie. She was erect. As soon as possible, The View joined in, accusing Carrie of normalizing a convicted felon for simply singing America the Beautiful. But as of right now, there is only fury and no felony conviction. When it became evident that Carrie's decision was a straightforward act of patriotism, it was hard to overlook the hypocritical tone of several media outlets. A classic illustration of how cancel culture frequently devolves into a hypocritical game is Carrie's narrative. Ultimately, the outcry subsided, but Carrie's career continued to thrive. She consistently has the best-selling records and sells out her shows. Even as the detractors moved on to the next target, Carrie remained unwavering, demonstrating that a lasting legacy may result from keeping loyal to oneself despite negativity. Please share your thoughts in the comments section, and remember to like and subscribe for additional updates on the most recent media and political scandals.